Google has a tool that's called the Page Speed Insights tool. You can just literally Google it and it's going to pop up and you can plug in your homepage there, like the URL, and it's going to show you what you need to improve. One thing where I've seen Facebook ads, for example, consistently give better results than Google ads is lead ads or like lead generation. So if I want people to sign up for my email list, for my newsletter, or, watch a webinar. So a common mistake here is that people just target all different platforms like Instagram ads, Facebook feed, stories in one ad set, but you need to adjust the ads. And that's key to actually getting something out of it.
And that is coming up next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show, so stay tuned. So, the big question is this. How are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough? Use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams. Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. We have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. So come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group, join today, and get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series absolutely free. If you enjoy this video, then do let us know by hitting that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, then go ahead and hit that thumbs down button and give us your honest feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging videos, interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Pamela Wagner. So Pamela helps established companies grow through Google and Facebook ads. She is a globetrotter and she has traveled to 75 countries and runs her company completely location independent with a worldwide team. In 2018, she was honored as one of the only 2 recipients of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Award. We'll talk to her about that. And in 2018, Pamela was honored as one of the Forbes 30 under 30 list makers for Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Manuj, for having me.
Awesome. So first of all, I'm so sorry for screwing up the name for that foundation award. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we get into the good stuff?
No worries. So Tony Elumelu is actually one of the biggest and I think also richest businessman on the African continent. He has made a big impact with the business that he created, and then there was a desire to kind of give on that knowledge, and so he created the Tony Elumelu Foundation, where each year he gives away $1,000 to 5,000 entrepreneurs in Africa. And so they also created the Mentor Network so that all these entrepreneurs also have actually mentors on their side. And so I once joined with a startup with a business partner, and then for the consecutive 3 years, I was a mentor. And so in 2018, I didn't even notice my mentee that I had back then, who is also a very he's won so many awards. It's incredible what he does. And he nominated me and I had no idea, literally. And so then there was only this manager of the Hilton in Abuja who's been who's had a 30-year career, and then me as 2 recipients of the awards. And I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. So yeah, I'm super grateful for the work that I had the chance to do with them.
Awesome, that's great. So now let's talk about you and your journey. Before we get into what you do, can you tell us how did you get started in tech? How did you get to Google? Take us down the memory lane and tell us a little bit about how your life unfolded.
Sure. So I think most important to note is that nothing that happened in the past 5 years was planned. I had no idea that I would be here, and there was never really a master plan. So the way I approached jobs in university was that I just took one step at a time. Like I was like, I want to try out different jobs so I get an idea how it is, what it feels like, so I know better what I want. So I did all kinds of things, from working in the bank to event management to being a language teacher in Russia to working with entrepreneurs in Nigeria and studying in China and Spain, so all different kinds of things. And then at the end of my master's degree, about 2 months before we had the graduation, my career coach asked me, was like, hey, do you want to apply to work at Google? And I was like, yes, of course. It was back then something I didn't even dare to dream of because I'd always strongly underestimated myself.
I see.
And so I worked on a couple of things and probably studied for some of the exams, some of the interviews harder than I did for some of the exams. And the good thing was that back then I knew 3 people in my direct network that were already working at Google. So at the same time that my career coach reached out to me, like shortly after that, I reached out to these other people and asked them if they could refer me because I knew it would even be more powerful. And so 2 of them ended up responding, referring me to, and I went through 5 interview rounds, 2 of them actually from China where Google was censored. And because I was already very good at interviewing skills and writing a CV and all of these things, of course I was nervous, but somehow I think I felt really confident that I was good. And what Google liked about me was that I was a generalist that they could form now into a specialist.
I see.
And so that's how my journey in ads started. I had done a little bit of marketing before, but nothing really specific to Google ads or so. And really then I learned all my craft at Google, at the source around Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google My Business. And so after about a year, Ireland is cold. I was based in Ireland, Dublin. It was one day in a year where I didn't wear a jacket, literally. And so I left Google, and it was my first time in life where I was like, I don't need to follow a boss. I don't need to be at the office at a certain time. I don't need to study for any exam. This is ultimate freedom right now. I can decide what I want to do. And it felt so freeing that I was like, hey, let me see what I can do in this state of being. Who am I in this kind of surrounding? And I started taking on the first projects. And about 4 months after I left Google, I'd made more money in a month than I'd made at Google in a month. And so I was like, something's working here. I just need to make this sustainable. And so it's been 4 years that it's been working, and I'm absolutely grateful, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
Awesome. That's great. So how did you get into ads? So it's kind of, I'm curious to know, if you're employed by Google, were you working for Google's clients building their ads, or you were working on the ad system itself?
So my job was helping small and medium businesses, on the one hand, leverage Google's tools better. So use Google Ads better, use Google Analytics better, Google My Business, and so on. And on the other hand, troubleshooting. Right. So helping them with issues, questions, and so on. And that made me acquire so much knowledge within a year that it's hard to get that anywhere else outside.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So, and what about SEO? How is SEO related to Google Ads? Are they complementary? Are they, they're mutually exclusive? So can you tell us a little bit? It'll be a good opportunity to sort of, unpack this and get some knowledge that you have acquired at Google. So maybe walk us through, what is the role of SEO, Google Ads, and then maybe we can talk about Facebook ads.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked this question because there's a huge difference between like SEO and Google Ads. So basically, Google Ads are the paid results you see on top in the search engine, as well as the ads on YouTube and so on. And SEO is really all organic, so search engine optimization, everything that's organic that you don't pay for. And SEO is always something that takes a little bit longer to see results. Like you build up backlinks, work on, I don't know, the meta tags and the, you know, having the right keywords. And like, there's a lot of different aspects where it just takes time for Google to process it, for, of course, traffic get to your website and so on. With Google Ads, you can see results almost immediately, but of course it takes time to gather data, but almost from like day 1 or 2, if it's really a good business, if it's the right business, if it's set up well, you can start seeing like purchases or leads coming in.
I see.
And ads can help you push the organic results through the traffic you're getting in one way or another.
Cool. And one question I had, you know, the other day we were talking about using Google Ads, and you mentioned you need to do some prep work before you can open up the ads and let the traffic in. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, when is the right time to start putting in some money into that?
Yeah, so one of the most important things to really have invested in is a proper website. So making sure that the website is mobile friendly, that the speed is good. And if you have worked on those 2 things, that's already a big step forward. Now, how do you know whether that's up to, you know, whether the speed is good or it's mobile friendly? Google has a tool that's called the Page Speed Insights tool. You can just literally Google it and it's going to pop up and you can plug in your homepage there, like the URL, and it's going to show you what you need to improve. If that is not solidly built, then what happens is you end up putting money in ads, and then people, you know, might jump off the website because it's not loading quickly, or people don't find what they want. Like, to give you an example of like one of our latest clients, actually, they have a great business. They're already making like mid 6 figures. But on the landing page that they have for their ads, they have 5 different call to actions. So there is, I think, request info, ask us anything, learn more, and 2 others. And that's confusing. Like, we really need to see the customer as someone lazy. And the easier we make it for them to take action and the clearer we make it, the better the conversion rate is. So the better they actually do what we want them to do on the website. And mobile friendly is, of course, super important, especially in developing countries and also elsewhere, because, you know, whether I'm on lunch break or I'm bored at work or I'm waiting for the bus, you know, there's so many moments people are so quick, they're always with their mobile phone. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And what about Facebook ads? How are they different from Google ads?
So Facebook ads was built, of course, in a way to mirror Google ads, because Google ads is really one of the first online advertising systems. And the main difference with Facebook ads is that they have now ads for search too, but they're still in the baby steps. But when I see an ad on Facebook, I might not know that I want it yet. Whereas when I type on Google blue shoes, I know that I want blue shoes. So we're usually talking about catching the user at a different stage of intent. One thing where I've seen Facebook ads, for example, consistently give better results than Google ads is lead ads or like lead generation. So if I want people to sign up for my email list, for my newsletter, or, you know, watch a webinar, like that's where Facebook ads are usually much more efficient than Google ads.
I see. And, you know, ads are really great to get traction very quickly, but I've also heard a lot of horror stories where people have invested a lot of time and money into ads, and they didn't get any result, or they actually, they actually ended up overspending over their budget and whatnot. So what are some of the typical mistakes that you have seen people make when they are putting their money into either Google ads or Facebook ads?
Yeah. Maybe also to give an example of another client right now that we have, and he approaches and he was like, oh my God, we're already doing Facebook ads. He was spending like 30-40K a month on Facebook ads, but Google is like, maybe we're spending like 2-3K, but there's not really anything coming out. Like the cost per purchase is high and it's just not ideal. And I was like, oh, cool. Like if you spend already that much money in Facebook ads, it means you got it figured out, So let's do Google first, and then we can talk about Facebook. So we did Google. We created a proper account structure, and like I think within a week, it was also something that was new for us, because within a week they had made not just all their ad spend back, but they had made the investment to work with us back too, plus create an additional surplus from the ads for like a quarter. Like it was amazing. And so now it's been 2 months and it's going really well for them. They've really managed to like have Google ads like a solid part of their marketing strategy. And then they were like, hey, maybe can you look at Facebook too? Maybe there's something you can suggest. And I look at their Facebook ads and I think I almost got a heart attack, because literally the only targeting they were using was like demographic targeting. So people in a certain age bracket, people in a certain location, and I think they maybe excluded the buyers of the past, 30 or 60 days, and maybe an additional ad sets like a lookalike audience. But they were targeting millions of people in these ad sets, spending 5 figures on ads a month. Wow. And taking a cost per purchase as normal that's actually way too high. And so we're right now in the process of kind of like restructuring the account, because there's so much people don't know. And especially with ads, it's hard to know what you don't know because it's gotten so complex.
Yeah.
So usually clients, when they come to us, they waste about 50% of the budget on average. And then we fix it and they're like, wow, like I didn't know it was possible.
Yeah. Now, as you said, this whole ad tech field is getting really complex. So one of the things that I'm always trying to understand is, what is the right type of ad for a particular landing page? So, we have display network, we have YouTube ads, we have, all these different types of ads. So I know it's too short a time to go over everything, but can you give us a very high level idea of what kind of ads work best for typical use cases for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so if we talk about Google Ads, I think what's important to distinguish is that we have 5 types of campaigns in Google Ads. And a lot of people even mistake that. There's search ads, display, shopping, video or YouTube, and app campaigns. App, of course, is for app installs. Shopping is if you promote products. And then we're left with YouTube, display, and search. Display and YouTube is very branding-ish. You just want to get the word out there. You want to make sure that people become aware of your brand. And so there are some people who have mastered YouTube ads to have them become a lead generation. So especially, for example, in the relationship coaching industry, they create a video of like the top 3 tips of how to make him text back or whatever. And then at the end, they're like, oh, if you want more, then, click here to download this guide. And it works really well for them. And there's a new type of display campaign, which is a smart display campaign that we've seen work really well for e-commerce clients. But I think that campaign type is like 2 months old right now. Like it's really new. And then search is usually what you would use if you want people to take action. Because if I type in search coaching certification in Toronto, like I'm interested in it. Like I probably want to do a coaching certification and I'm ready to take action. So usually in the first place, having a good and well set up search campaign can already take you far. And you don't need a lot of budget for it. It's unlike what a lot of people think. Like most of our clients have much less budget than like the bigger companies or bigger competitors. But we consistently see in the reports that their ads are shown more often on top, performing better, and so on. Simply because of the quality that's also important to Google.
Yeah. That's awesome. And what about Facebook ads? And Facebook is even more complicated. I mean, I think they have like 13, 14 types of ads.
Yeah. So Facebook, like the majority of the time we use conversion ads, where, you know, the goal is to get on a certain thank you page in order to have downloaded a freebie or something. Yeah. Then we use app install campaigns for apps because we have a few clients with apps. And then something new, it's been around for months, but I think people haven't really been using them a lot, is lead gen ads, where we're starting to see some first really good results. So when people click on the button, they don't get to the website, but they get to a form. And so that works especially well, I would say, in B2B instances. Could also work well in B2C. There is also like a reach campaign, which we only use when we see that even with remarketing, that people see an ad too often, then we limit it a bit because we don't want to be annoying to people. Like, you know, like all these ads you see all the time, you're like, dude, I've gotten the message, right? Like, just stop showing me this ad. So it's really just like 3-4 types that we use the most. And then the others are, it's okay, but.
And now let's talk about ad format. So, you know, we have text, we have image, we have video, and that's another sort of area where people are confused which one to use. A lot of people say video ads perform the best. Some people say no, you know, use text ads or image ads. What is your opinion about that?
Sure. So performing the best is always relative. Like whenever someone says that, I always encourage people to ask a deeper question, like performs best in what? Is the click-through rate good in comparison with what? You know, is it about, you know, the leads that you're getting? Is it about the purchase that you're getting? Like, what's your goal? And then we always look at it relatively to the goal. The one campaign that, if we talk about real results, like people taking action, then a search remarketing campaign is most powerful. And a lot of people stick with, when they say remarketing, they actually talk about a display remarketing campaign. But that's not, it's nice, but again, like it's more effective if people type in again that search term in Google, because then you know they really want it. And then the conversion rate and the cost per conversion are just great.
I see. Now, the theme of the show is bootstrapping, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs who are bootstrapping their businesses. And as you know, when you're bootstrapping, budgets are not very high. So what will you recommend to people who are on a limited budget? Like, should they consider using ads, or should they just focus on SEO and wait for some revenue to build up and go in with a larger budget?
So I think at the beginning, it's key to refine one's message and really know what the customer wants and how I speak to them. So knowing the pain points and like the heaven of the customer is super, super important. And then secondly, really investing in a good homepage that it works well. Like those two things need to be there first. And ideally you want to already have some customers. Like you want to have a proof of concept. You want to know, you want to make revenue. Startups that haven't made any revenue yet, or new companies that haven't made any revenue yet, I would strongly discourage you from getting into Google Ads, because you're just putting another headache on your shoulders. First of all, the system is complex. You got to learn that. And secondly, it's just so much data. You're like, what the heck am I doing with this? And the time you end up spending on those two are actually better used if you work on getting sales in, work on the homepage, and, you know, work on the storytelling, branding, what it is that you stand for actually.
Oh, I see.
So like in terms of a budget, just to mention that too.
Yeah, for sure.
I get people like, oh yeah, we're like already spending like $300 a month on ads. I'm like, that's not really enough for Google to actually give you even proper data. So I would say if you don't feel comfortable spending about $1,000, $1,500 on ads a month, then it's not yet the right time.
Got it.
That's what I would take as a measure.
Awesome. And now let's talk about another factor, which I'm not sure whether you work on that, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn ads are, in conversations whenever I talk to other people about digital marketing and all that, and they say that they perform really well for B2B scenarios, of course, but I tried it and I didn't really understand why it is so expensive on LinkedIn versus Google and Facebook. Do you have any opinion about that?
Yeah, so LinkedIn can be a little bit of a hit or miss depending on the industry. What I like LinkedIn for is you can target people really, really directly according to their professional experience. So you can say, I want to target everyone who works in logistics in a company with more than 5,000 employees.
Yeah.
And if you have a product that fits, then that's great. And you're probably going to get good results. Now, the cost per lead is probably going to be higher than on Facebook, but usually those are also better leads. So you need to do less vetting off the lead, so to speak. Yeah, we mostly use either like lead gen or like sponsored content ads.
Got it. What about Twitter and Instagram? I mean, Instagram is it more or less similar to Facebook, or is there any difference? And what about Twitter?
So Twitter is something we haven't used yet, but like from sneaking into and getting a peek here and there, it's very similar to other ad platforms. Instagram is actually a part of Facebook. So unless you want to boost a post of yours, which you do in Instagram, in the app itself, you set up Instagram campaigns in Facebook. So we usually put it as a separate ad set. And it can work really well, especially if you are in the food industry, coaching, like something personal development, clothes, of course. But then one always needs to make sure one adjusts the ads. So a common mistake here is that people just target all different platforms like Instagram ads, Facebook feed, stories in one ad set, but you need to adjust the ads. And that's key to like actually getting something out of it.
Got it. All right, that's great. Now let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. So, you've been very successful, but what are some of the challenges you faced as you were building your business, growing it, and bringing it to this level?
Yeah, so I think the advantage I've had that I've always been a very self-aware and introspective person. So when something isn't working, isn't going the way I want it, I usually try to ask myself and figure it out, like, what is it?
Yeah.
And so I was also like, I got also pretty good with like manifesting stuff and even, certain amounts of revenue. But then what I started noticing in the first 1 to 2 years, I could manifest these amounts, but the money wouldn't stay with me. And so I noticed that actually from my parents, there were a lot of subconscious beliefs around money that didn't serve me. And they just started coming up as I was now in this journey, because I was the one who was making the money. I wasn't getting paid as such.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that like, I still remember, them kind of like having certain wrong beliefs about people making a little bit more money, because they were like, oh, as soon as they make X amount of money, they should just give it all away. So what ended up happening is like I was making this money, but barely anything was remaining for me, because I would always find an opportunity to spend it. And so I had to really look deep into like my own limiting beliefs around money. And that was probably the biggest thing I had to work on, because in the end, that was the only limitation I had in order to like grow, have a bigger impact, work with, of course, clients with bigger budgets and so on. So, and that's been a process of years. So it's not something that probably one can switch within a day or two, because it goes so deep. So that's a constant piece of work. It was probably my biggest challenge so far.
That's a very interesting point that you brought up. The self-awareness and mindset is a key that many people ignore while they are trying to set up their business or they're going on their entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
In most cases, people think that this is some new age stuff which doesn't really affect them. So how did you how did you actually turn towards these paradigms? Like, were you always into were you always aware that these things play a very big role in your life, or uh, did you come across something which introduced these paradigms to you?
So I think I have been working strongly on my own personal development since 2013, where I went to an event where I meditated the first time, and I was always the kid that couldn't sit still for 2 or 3 minutes. Like if I was left alone for 2 or 3 minutes, I would make sure someone would pay attention to me. So I was like, okay, meditation, you want me to sit still for 20 minutes? Like what? So that's kind of how it started. And then I reflect quite a bit. I review my business and personal life like every 2 weeks on average. And then of course, once a quarter and year end and so on. And I got fed up by seeing this pattern. I was like, this is a pattern, and there are other people who are doing it successfully, who are doing it differently. And I'm no different than other people. So what is it that I'm missing? What is it that I haven't yet figured out? And so this is like, of course, asking myself these questions over months and meditating and of course visualizing certain goals. Because I was like, I can visualize goals. Like I can make it a reality. Like when I have a dream, I achieve it. So what am I missing in this one area of my life that's not where I want it to be? Like what's not working? And then just trying to be aware of patterns and working with coaches, of course, here and there. And that was a big step for me. Like reaching out for help was a big thing for me because like I grew up as a single child. I was always seen as like this overachiever and I always wanted to figure out things myself. And so like asking for help was a big thing for my ego. It was like, oh, it's okay to ask for help. Like it doesn't mean I'm any of a worse person or something, So yeah, a combination of different micro steps along the way.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's very good advice, reaching out for help and being self-aware. Are there any rituals you follow, any affirmations and things of that nature, which can help other people get unblocked as well?
Yeah, so I am a big believer in affirmations and getting them right. And so I'm also a big believer in things coming easy to me. And whatever is right for me comes easy. Yeah. So if I'm in a situation where something doesn't feel easy or feels like, difficult or strong, I literally ask myself, how can I make this easy? Or how can this look like if it was easy? Yeah. And also like literally things of like, I'm enough. Like I'm worth X amount of money. Things just come to me and yeah, the word easy is often in these phrases, effortlessly. So really constructing sentences the way that I want it to be, but saying them in a way that as if it was already reality.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us and shedding some light on Google ads, Facebook ads, and also sharing your thoughts on how people can change their mindset and climb that ladder of success. So thanks a lot. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us how people can reach out to you?
Sure. So on the one hand, they can reach out through my homepage, which is pamelawagner.marketing. Or if you're more interested in terms of like the topics that we just discussed, there's also a little webinar that I recorded because a lot of people kept asking me about it. And that's something you can find on funnelUp.today. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you. And that's all for now. Until next time. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a career professional, then I invite you to join our growing community. Navigate to bootstrapping.group As a welcome bonus, you will get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series and Mastering Your Inner Game video series absolutely free. This series of short videos address some core issues which are instrumental in helping you move forward in your business or career. The videos are yours to view and share for free. No obligations or strings attached, except for one. You have to take action and implement it. So join us today. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out the other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.